infections in flux. But I think this whole story, because it keeps emerging every few years as new HIV infections hits the front page of the LA Times, and I remember sometimes it's like the top story in the world. It goes on Drudge and it drives a lot of news attention. But to me, it primarily
why. Yeah, go ahead.
It primarily illustrates how everything we do affects other people. You can't just, however libertarian you are, you can't say, well, whatever they do in porn, that doesn't affect anyone outside of porn. Because if people in porn are transmitting sexually transmitted diseases, they're not just going to spread them to people in porn, because there's not like a perfect barrier between porn people and the rest of the population. So when disease spread in the porn industry, it poses a threat to people outside the porn industry who knowingly or unknowingly have sex with people in the porn industry.
Now, let me ask you this. I may have had vicarious sex with a few people in the...
Right, I had the real sex. So, I mean, I was...
So let me ask you this question. Can I get the disease transmitted to me by simply downloading their pornography?
You can't get a physical disease, but you can get spiritual or moral or
because I know that
other diseases.
My software says I should protect myself on downloads from contracting viruses, and I was just wondering if this had nothing to...
Well, in the secular age, people think that viruses are primarily something that is physical and disease-oriented.
Ah, now you're going to
spiritual and moral and religious viruses are every bit as devastating, if not more, than physical viruses. I remember there was one young woman, Roxanne, I think.
Roxanne! You don't have to... Go ahead.
Caught HIV about 7 years ago.
What a name for somebody in that industry. Yeah, go ahead.
And a news reporter, went back to her home in Canada, a news reporter interviewed her and then interviewed me saying, I think it's bad that there are people selling the scene where she caught HIV, caught this deadly disease.
Okay.
And I said, no, because why is that any worse than watching a scene where someone's soul dies? So, catching a deadly disease or watching someone's soul die, I mean, you can see that in porn stars when they come into the industry. They have this whole fresh, sometimes innocent look, and then you can just see their soul destroyed as they work with, Max Hardcore or Contusion.
What about these names?
Or Rocco Siffredi, or Ron Jeremy, or some of the other stalwarts of the industry. You can just see them die inside on camera. So it's a little bit like a fling with hard drugs. Someone who has a fling with hard drugs and then stops, they're forever affected by those drugs they took. They have lost a certain innocence and a certain natural joy in life, and they've been hardened to a certain extent. So that, for me, I've plundered a lot of women. My, marriage life, my sex life, once I get married, it's going to be affected by all the sex I had before. I think someone who waits until marriage and then only has sex with one person, they're much more likely to stay faithful and to, they're going to have certain advantages not having tasted the forbidden fruit. So again, the main point is that you can't say, oh, what I do has no effect on anyone else. Everything we do affects other people. So the choices we make in the privacy of our own life is going to have an effect on us, and what's going on inside of us is going to affect other people.